ghost story like I said in my last ghost video story. Now I know the other one was short, but this one's not. My aunt lived in my grandfather's house, the same house I was talking about in the first ghost story. And she moved in with her boyfriend and her daughter, which they had together. They moved in because they had nowhere else to go. So when they moved in, nothing odd happened already. They moved into the same room that my mom and I moved into, which was the room at the very end of the hall. So when they moved in, nothing really happened. After a while, their daughter would wake up from sleeping, and in the morning they would find bite marks and scratches all over her, and it was in places where she couldn't do it herself. And they were really freaked out, and they were confused of what was going on. Well, knowing my aunt and her boyfriend, they believe in the paranormal, and they resorted straight to that because they know that they didn't do that to their child, and they know that their child didn't do it because it's weird to contort to bite on your back. So they changed rooms, and they changed to the playroom, the basement, which isn't any better if you know what I mean. But they didn't know that. At least, not yet. But they didn't know that when they were living there. So when they moved into that room, they thought they escaped from the troubles of the other room. So after a while, nothing odd really happened until her boyfriend was the only one in the house, and it was late at night. He was using the bathroom, and when he got out of the bathroom, he heard his name being whispered to him, like a shout whisper. And it was weird because he was the only one home. And that seemed to be the last straw for him, because he knew exactly what that was, because he's had paranormal experiences when he was little. And he was like, that's it for me. So in their last efforts of living there, they actually had a priest come and bless the house when my grandfather wasn't home. He was at work. And since he's not a believer, it was best to do it when he wasn't home. So they blessed the house, and nothing else seemed to happen, at least not to anyone else of their knowledge. And that's basically it. And I know this one is kind of short the way I told it, but it's not short in the time period that they had lived through. And it was really scary for them, and I just wanted to share it because I thought it was very interesting. And the way that my aunt's daughter was treated was not the way I was treated. And it's weird because that girl and I were around the same age of when both of these paranormal experiences happened to both of us. So I wonder why she got such bad treatment and I didn't necessarily get that kind of treatment. So I don't know. Unless there's something my mom's not telling me, because my mom would be the one to know of any more paranormal experiences. But that's it for that. I also want to share what my grandmother had in that house. I mean, mine as well. My grandmother went into this house just because she wanted to see one of her kids, because my grandfather and her had all of these kids together, and they divorced. So she was coming over to see one of them, and when she got into the house and went into the living room right by the front door, she saw two apparitions appear in front of her. They were both really angry looking. They said, "Get out, this is my house." And it was like a really demonic voice. This is all what she told me. And she was scared. She didn't question it at all. She just ran out the front door and said, "I will never go back in there." And her theory to what haunts the house is a older boy around 17 or in his teens that haunts the room at the very end of the hall, which is where I lived in with my mom, and my aunt with her boyfriend and her daughter lived in for a while. So she thinks that the older boy hung himself in the upstairs room, and the younger boy got in a car accident near the house. Now, I don't know if this is true. I might look up past history of the house. I don't know how I can do that, but I am going to try and see what I can find, and I'm gonna make this a part 2. So this isn't part of my personal ghost story, because it's not mine, but it will be part of this one because it especially is about my grandfather's house. And while I have that video of my grandfather's house, I will do another video of driving by my grandmother's old house, the farmhouse. So, oh, hold on. Before I move on, my uncle lived there for a little bit too. He lived there longer than the other ones, but when he was living there, he had his own paranormal experience, and he told everyone that he had sleep paralysis, and he couldn't move, and he felt something really evil in the room. Although this happened to him, he didn't move rooms, and he didn't question it too much, and I don't know why, but that's all I know about the story. And that's literally all I know that happened in that house. So, yeah. One more story I forgot to add. It didn't take place in that house. It actually took place in my grandmother's apartment. And my aunt was struggling for money at the time. So she was in her own room. It was a 2-bedroom apartment. And they were living together, obviously. And since she was struggling for money, it seemed like ghosts followed my grandmother and my aunt. So when she got out of the shower and she found a penny on her bed, and she didn't know where this penny came from because she doesn't keep change around. She's a very clean person. So she found that very odd and just like went about her day. Next thing she knows, there's pennies and change all over her room. And it kind of seemed like the ghost knew that she was struggling for money. And it was funny because the ghost was literally trying to help her out, but they never knew where that change came from. None of them were missing any change, so this change came out of nowhere. And that's it for my aunt's side of the story. Well, that is all I'm going to share for today. I know it is kind of short, but you gotta remember that when people live through experiences like this, it's way more detailed and way more difficult and time consuming than what I explain it to be. So, yeah, I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next video.